So Forever Horror Month is finished, but there are still a few horror movies that I hope to have done reviews for that I just didn't have the time to deal with. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a couple of quick horror movie reviews, including a review for Ridley Scott's The Counselor. So first up is Return of the Living Dead 3. Now the first two films of this franchise were very much horror comedies, going with the parody and satire of the zombie genre. But this one goes into a more of a horror teenage romance direction. Now don't get a Twilight vibe off of that, of course. The teenage romance of this film is probably the strongest aspect of it all, because you got two really solid actors in J. Trevor Edmond and especially Melinda Clarke portrays Julie, the whole lead of the film. I think she does a really fantastic job in this acting role, and it's really the tentpole of this whole film. She holds it up very strongly. You feel for this character every step of the way through. It is a really solid performance from her, and the strengths of this film really land on her very capable shoulders. Now the horror aspects of the film are not quite as effective as they could be, just coming down to a lack of a consistency in the visual tone. There's some low budget quirkiness here and there that doesn't quite go for comedy, but it's a little silly here and there. The filmmakers did demonstrate in certain moments that they could create some very strong visual appeal with the film, but overall it doesn't quite get there as a greatly effective horror movie or zombie movie. But there is some good gore in this film, and especially when Julie becomes her greatly self-mutilated self in all its glory, that is an iconic image. That is a fantastic visual that I've always taken away from this film very strongly, and it's kind of iconic character, iconic visual in a film that never became iconic in the least, because it quite frankly was not a strong enough film to gain that kind of following. But Return of the Living Dead 3 I think is worth a watch if you could definitely find the unrated version, which has not been released on DVD, let alone Blu-ray. You can find it on VHS or Laserdisc if that's your thing. But definitely check it out. And next up is the 1999 remake of House on Haunted Hill, which is a film I've always really liked. I don't think it's perfect, but there's a lot of good stuff in this film. It is really creepy. A lot of good atmosphere in this film. Really solid cast. The highlights for me is like Jeffrey Rush, Chris Kattan. He does a really solid, entertaining job in this film. Taye Diggs, who I love in everything I see him in, and you got Jeffrey Combs as the ghostly murderous doctor, who anyone loves Jeffrey Combs who would jump on top of that. And the film does a lot of good stuff right. Unfortunately, it's that third act of the film where things kind of fall apart a little bit. It feels very rushed through. The payoff is not quite as good as it could be. It just feels like you're going through with a lot of good stuff in this film, a lot of the paranoia and psychosis, and a lot of great character dynamics and everything. And it just goes into a spook kind of ghost movie, and it doesn't really feel as satisfied as it could be. But besides that, there's a lot of really good stuff in this version of House on Haunted Hill that I would very much recommend seeing. Just don't expect too much from the end of the film, but getting there is a lot of fun. I really recommend it a hell of a lot. Go check out that film. Now, Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2, is a little odd here because I actually shot the review for this one, but I became so unmotivated to actually scour through the whole movie to grab the little clips of whatever I needed to punctuate and illustrate my points about the movie that I just didn't feel like finishing the dang thing. And on top of that, Doug Walker, Nostalgia Critic, he did a great deconstruction of this film about 2 years ago. That probably does about as much as I would have done. The only things I had to give to this film positively was that it has great cinematography. It looks gorgeous. I think the cast is really strong, headed up by Jeffrey Donovan. But the plot just makes no damn sense in this film. It's supposed to be a very surreal, twisting and turning, perspective-based film where the film is juxtaposing two contradictory sort of perspectives on the events that are occurring to these characters, but ultimately gives you no evidence or anything to go on to actually decipher exactly what the living hell is going on in this film. And the ending of the film, which I've heard one other person say, is flat out mean. That it ends on such a note that just like it is almost like a giant freaking middle finger at you saying, we're not going to give you anything. This is the end of the film. That the end of the film actually ends on a character saying like, I don't know what the fuck that is, that didn't happen, and you're saying the exact same fucking thing, that
these murderous events on this videotape never fucking happened in this film. You never saw these people doing it. These people have no memory of ever doing any of this stuff. They don't... That's me going crazy on you. This film is frustrating. That's a beautiful to look at. It's got great talent on display. The execution of the story sucks. It sucks. And it's all in this weird, bizarre world where the Blair Witch Project was a film that was released, but it ends up being an actual documentary, actual real footage that was found. These people actually died. It doesn't make any fucking sense. This movie doesn't make any sense. Like, it's incoherent as fuck, really.
In short, Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 is one of those films I like for its potential, that it had good ideas, it had some good technical elements, that director Joe Berlinger definitely showed the ability to make a very creepy, atmospheric horror film. He just didn't have a very good script in hand to really capitalize on those talents that he has, but hopefully, if you give it a chance, maybe you'll find something a little more redeeming in it. But aside from those technical elements and the talent on display, in terms of the acting and the cinematography, I don't think there's much to give this film, unfortunately.
That's the end of my review. I got nothing left for you. I'm sorry, I got nothing left. That's me. That's my rant for the week. I got nothing left. So, Forever Horror Month continues sooner than later. Check out the next video. Bye.
And lastly, I did go see Ridley Scott's The Counselor, which has been getting some very poor reviews and did very, very poorly at the box office. There are things I did like about the film. Let's say that first off. I thought it was spectacularly well acted. I thought the entire cast was solid, incredible, great stuff going on from them. I thought Javier Bardem was the absolute best thing in the whole film. Vibrant, charismatic, doing great stuff in there. And I thought, as usual, with the Ridley Scott film, the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the things I love about Ridley Scott. Whether the film is all that good or not, he makes some of the most beautiful looking films I've ever seen. And despite having a couple other things I did like about it, sort of exploring the darker side of humanity, a couple of weird, bizarre scenes that it had in there, and I liked how the film slowly interwove certain plot elements in with everything else that was going on. The film ultimately doesn't have a thematic thread that flows through all this stuff that's going on with these characters and everything, to actually tie it up at the end with some sort of payoff, some kind of satisfying resolution to the events that unfolded in this 2-hour film, and it left me with a very hollow impression at the end of things. But ultimately, it's not a film that I hated, but it wasn't a strong enough film to elicit any sort of strong emotion from me, so it very much falls into the very bland area of mediocre. If you love any of these actors, you want to see some great spectacular acting, some incredible cinematography, check it out as a rental at some point. But unfortunately, that's the strongest recommendation I can offer for Ridley Scott's The Counselor.
So I hope you enjoyed those couple of reviews. If you have any comments about them, any kind of feedback, if you have some opinions to share about those films yourself, post some comments below, hit some like buttons, hit some subscribes. You can also find written reviews for every single one of these aside from The Counselor, and you can get a little more in-depth detail about what I thought about each film if you need a little bit more incentive to check them out or not check them out. So that's it for Forever Cinematic this time. If you like this kind of format, I might do it a couple more times on a rare occasion, but just post some feedback, let me know what you think, and take care. Bye.